Hi guys. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this crazy time when I was in ninth grade, so that you know that I'm old already. But in 1986, on Saturday, April 26th, there was a disaster. Some of you may have seen the movie Chernobyl and understand that it was a disaster that the world had never seen before, where there was a meltdown at a nuclear power plant. And this infographic, I told you I've been looking for some cool infographics to show you some things. Let's see, can I zoom in? Yeah. Let's get rid of this so that we don't need that up here anymore. It tells us how Chernobyl happened, right? There was this test that was being run, and there was a power surge that took place. And when the power surge took place, an enormous amount of heat was generated, and it blew the test cap off of the top of the reactor. And what happened when it blew the top off of the reactor is that it allowed all of the radiation, the fuel rods, to leak that radiation out into the atmosphere. And yeah, when it first started happening, only a few people died, but the effects of this disaster were countless across all of Ukraine. And one of the big things that always dawned on me, and as we're living through this little pandemic that we're living through right now, is how the Ukraine kept it a secret. And it really did not become apparent that this had happened until other countries in the, I think I put it on the next page. Let's see. Maybe I put it down here. No, I didn't. Other countries around the Ukraine started to notice a large amount of radiation that was in the atmosphere, and they didn't know where it was coming from. And so when the other countries started to get suspicious, that's when the Ukraine finally admitted that they had this disaster take place. Okay, so back to the infographic. How it happened, you know that there was a power surge. They were doing a test run, and I watched the HBO, I think it was HBO, or maybe it's Netflix. One of them, they have that Chernobyl miniseries. It's a really good miniseries. I enjoyed it a lot. So if you want, you could take a look at that. I can't let you or tell you to watch that because I don't remember what it's on. It's on one of those subscription services. But there's, some stuff in there that, so use your own discretion. Anyway, it was a really good documentary slash miniseries on Chernobyl. Down here, let's zoom in. Down here, they talk about the thermal radiation. Thermal is just another big fancy word for heat. Because remember, when this thing blew up, enormous amounts of heat was given off, and that heat melted the reactor core. That's why they call it a meltdown. And it allowed the radiation to escape. It also prevented the control rods, which are meant to absorb the extra neutrons from reacting with the fuel rods and slowing the reaction down. It stopped those control rods. And so the control rods couldn't do their job. They couldn't get them up. They couldn't get them down. They couldn't get them close enough to the fuel rods to stop the nuclear reactor, and it kept getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Okay, so they've got some thermal radiation that was also given off, and people burned. Then years later, they started to notice some other radiation effects years after this disaster took place. So a lot of people didn't die immediately. They had people that did get sick, but then they had some people that took years and years and years for them to see the effects of the radiation. And here they're talking about blood disorders. They're talking about animals that were born with genetic deformities. Okay, so a lot of things started to happen in the last, over the last 30 years. It's funny because now you actually are able to go in that area where Chernobyl took place, but you have to wear radiation badges. I don't know if I would be like the first to jump on that tour. Anyway, this is what I was talking about as far as fallout. Down here, they're talking about how the wind started to blow the radiation far distances, and other countries started to get wind of the radiation and the nuclear explosion, and that's how the Ukraine got found out. Now, I remember, because I was in 9th grade, like I said, I remember talking about this in my science class, and we had 2 foreign exchange students in my high school at the time who were from Ukraine. And I guess that just made an impression on me, and I remember thinking, oh gosh, are their families going to be okay? How close were they to this nuclear power plant? So anyway, in the next day or so, what you're going to do is you're going to watch a video on Chernobyl, and you're going to answer a series of questions about this nuclear disaster, and I hope you enjoy it. Oh, one more thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, in case you think that this could never happen again because it happened 30-something years ago, just a couple of years ago, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago now, time gets distorted, we had another type of nuclear disaster that took place in Japan when they had the tsunami come up. Like, there was an earthquake and then the tsunami came, and it disabled the control rods once again with the fuel center, and they had a meltdown in Japan. So that was the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. We also had one in New York. That was the 3 Mile Island nuclear disaster that took place here in New York. It wasn't nearly the size of the Chernobyl or the Fukushima Daiichi one, but that's another interesting. So, needless to say, because of all these things that happened, the Shoreham nuclear power plant never opened. And if you drive out east, if you're going out to the outlets or whatever, you pass right by that nuclear power plant. And the reason why it didn't open is because of the Chernobyl disaster, and they were afraid that Long Islanders wouldn't be able to escape, and we had such a high density of population here. Anyway, so this video is long enough. I hope you are all well and you enjoy some of this everyday chemistry that we're talking about over the next couple of weeks. Talk to you later. Nope.